Okay, this is a totally impromptu video trying to help out a dear friend out in California who has a duo reproducing player grand piano that, well, it still reproduces fairly well. It's starting to get a little weak in the high end when a lot of for playing loud passages. And since the unit was rebuilt about 25 years ago, I thought about the weakest links in the dual art system, and one of the things that dawned on me was that since the accordion pneumatics, these accordion pneumatics were recovered with leather, with tan pneumatic leather, that they might be getting a little leaky with the age, since it's been about 25 years. This one right here was recovered with tan pneumatic cloth, and actually about the same time, about 25 years ago. And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to suck in on this hose which is connected to this, and I want you to watch the movement of the bellow. I'm going to be sucking pretty hard here, a lot harder than the valve, than the intensity valves would be sucking on this bellow. Just to show you what's happening here. Of course, this is the highest setting here, the big bellow, and then these smaller ones are the graduated ones. That as the bellow closes, it opens up the knife valve that allows the air to pass through to the stack and change the volume of the music. So this is what it's supposed to do. It should close down. This should close down all the way. And it should close down smartly. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to suck on this with my mouth. And I'm sucking pretty hard. And I can hear the air leaking around the cloth. So obviously, this just isn't achieving the full movement required, even with a high level of vacuum. If I suck really, really hard, I can finally get it to come down. But like I say, I'm probably sucking harder than the amount of vacuum. I don't have a vacuum gauge on here. Let me see. I got a vacuum gauge right here. Let me see how hard I'm sucking on this. So I'm sucking probably around 35 inches of vacuum, which is pretty high. All right? And of course, because of the fact that it's continually leaking, just doing this procedure right here, because I can feel the air moving in my mouth, this is causing a leak in the system. So, it's a weakness. So what I thought about as an intermediate possibility to improve the performance of the piano would be to seal this assembly. And what I'm going to be sealing it with is Dow Corning 3140. It's an RTV. I use that product for sealing pouches in the Universal and other pouches when doing rebuilding on player pianos. So, and I wanted to show that the process, although it's a little laborious, is really not all that difficult. This is the way that the expression mechanism is oriented in the piano. So, you'd have to be laying on the ground and looking up from here, and there are two screws on the bottom that hold the accordion pneumatic in place. So they're fairly easy to get to. and then once they're free, you can move this up out of the way like this. And I think I'm in frame enough that you can see the, you can't, move up a little bit here. You can see this leather nut right here. So once that's out of the way, you can move this up out of the way and then get your hand in here and unscrew this leather nut that holds the bracket in place. And you can wiggle this on out, and now the accordion pneumatic is free. Once the accordion pneumatic is free, I'm going to back out here a little bit. You can see that there are these sets of adjusters. This is dirty. It's really, really important. I can't overstress the importance of these devices, these adjusters, going back exactly where they came from, because they're all calibrated. That's what these screws are right here. They're calibrations for the expression mechanism, and you don't want to mess those up, so you got to make sure that these go back exactly where they came from. These have been previously marked 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and these are A. These are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 B, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 C. I may go ahead and turn off the camera while I take all these out, but basically you just take these all out. So just like that, and put them aside. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and turn the camera off until I get all those out. Okay, I've removed all of the parts. They're sitting right over there, and as you can see, I've marked this A, B, and C right where they were. And the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to collapse these all the way. Actually, I can see that there's actually a rip in this one right here. There's a rip in this bellow right there. I'm not going to attend to that because that's not the point of this. But you know, that in itself would necessitate the rebuilding of this. You could take a piece of thin pneumatic cloth or pneumatic skin and go ahead and repair that, but that is going to impede the movement of that bellow. So the correct thing to do would be to go ahead and replace this. This is an interim repair, so okay. This is this. I'm just going to go ahead and put some of this into here. I don't really think I'm going to need all that much. I don't know if you can see how much I put in there. Probably what, a teaspoon. Because the important thing to remember here when applying this, I'm going to be using just Q-tips. You could use a brush, but I think I'll have a little more control with a Q-tip. And I think I'll be able to spread it more evenly, because you don't want it thick. You actually want it thin, so I'm going to put it on and then spread it out. And when it starts getting to the point where it starts looking like it's not putting on a nice even layer, I thought about using a brush. It seems to me that a brush, I'd be concerned with a brush that you might have a tendency to poke at the material, and really the last thing you want to do is to damage material. Yeah, I think I've got a little bit too much on this one. I don't know if you can see the difference. Let's see if I can zoom in on this a little bit to see if you can see the difference in the layer that I've got on this one versus this one. This one looks like it's got too much on it, so I'm going to scrape that off and kind of put that on the other one. You'll really be able to tell once you start working with it. Like I say, you just want a real thin layer of the product on there. I don't even know why I'm doing this one, but I'm going to do them all. And here again, I've definitely got too much on there. This one's also got a rip in it. I just could feel that as I went over it. The cloth is so old, it's there's really no sense in doing that. So we'll move on. The reason you don't want a thick layer on here is that you don't want it to impede the movement of the bellow. And the question I'm asking myself is could I have made a better choice in terms of what I'm using to apply this with? Because as you can see, this is getting to be a bit of a nuisance. Hang on a sec. So I found my bag of brushes. I found these little throwaway acid brushes. And, I'm just going to trim it down. I hope that was in frame. I'm going to trim it down. I have a little more control. I really feel like I don't know, I'm really not real comfortable with this. It's a little stiff. I think what I may end up doing is that I may end up wiping it off after I get it all put on here. I may end up wiping it off with the Q-tip. Actually, I'm kind of curious to know whether or not that teaspoon of product that I put in the little container here, whether or not that'll be enough to do the whole thing. I'm gonna back out here a little bit. because I've just about run out of what I put in there. And I've still got these two little pieces left to do here. I guess I should have probably cleaned my bench there before I started this. Okay, now I'm going to use the Q-tip. Wipe off the excess. Might even be able to use a rag. Again, you got to remember that the material that you're working with, may be fairly fragile. And the last thing you want to do is, poke a hole through it. So you got to be delicate. These areas right here you can't get. Okay, that does it. I'm going to let that dry for an hour, and I'll get back to you then. Okay, it's been, I don't know, half an hour, 40 minutes, and as you can see, I've hooked up a vacuum gauge to this, because you remember last time when I was testing it that I had to apply about 35 inches of vacuum to get it to collapse. And I'm going to suck on the hose now, and we'll see where the needle goes and how that thing moves. It's not completely dry yet. I can feel that it's still a little tacky. Not much, just a little tacky. So I know it's not. Especially in the corners here, I can feel it. Still needs to dry a little bit more, but we'll see. See what happens here. So I'm going to start sucking on it. You notice that the gauge isn't even moving. And what I'm doing is I'm sucking in and then putting my tongue over the end of the tube once it's collapsed to see how long it takes to open back up. So it's not 100% airtight, but it sure takes a heck of a lot less energy to make it collapse. And based on that, I'd say that adding that sealer was a huge success. And I may go ahead and just go ahead and apply another coat of that sealer while I've still got it out, just to see if I can get it, airtight. Because I did put on a very thin layer. Now that the cloth is impregnated with it, maybe it'll get airtight, and that would be cool if it gets airtight. Okay, now I'm recording. You know, although most people probably wouldn't do this, only because they don't want to get their fingers dirty, I guess. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and I'm just going to put this stuff on by hand. That way I can feel how much I'm putting on. And actually you can see how much I'm putting on. I'm just kind of working it in a little bit right at these corners, because it's probably at the corners where it's leaking the most. And we'll go ahead and let that sit. There's the cap. Okay, it's been a couple of hours, and this is all but dry. Now I'm going to suck in on it, and you can see what I'm doing is I'm sucking in just a little bit, and I'm putting my tongue over the end of the tube here, and you can see now that the repair is airtight. And now that that's done, I'm going to turn off the recorder here, and I'm going to put it back together, and then we'll go through the install. Okay, it's put back all together, and the unit's ready to put in. Stick it through the hole here. I think you can see the two holes here. You see the two holes there on the bottom. Those are the screw holes for right there and there. Don't forget to put on the leather nut. It'd be nice if I had a light here. That would have been the smart thing to do. There we go. So that I can see the hole. Snip it up a little bit. By the way, the only tool that I needed throughout this entire job was one screwdriver. That's all that was needed. And now I'm going to hook up this gauge. I don't know if the gauge is in frame, so check to make sure the gauge is in frame, and it's not. There we go. I don't know if you'll be able to see it, but I'll tell you the truth, whatever it reads. And I'm just going to suck it down enough that it collapses this 100%. The gauge is reading approximately, I'll try that again, I think it said like 15. So 15 inches as compared to 35, and it's holding, so it's not leaking. So not only have we eliminated the leaks that these would have introduced to the system, we also have a system now that's going to be very, very responsive to the signals that it gets from the music roll in terms of the expression of the piano. I would say that the total time that it took to do this job, not including the waiting for the drying time, and that was putting on a double coat, probably half an hour at the most. To do the repair. So looking at about an hour to do both of them, including taking it apart and whatnot, you know, to to get at the pieces. I'd say that's a worthwhile improvement. That's it. Again, the product that I used was Dow Corning 3140. This is not available at your regular hardware store. At least I don't think so. I got it online. The stuff is not cheap. I think it's like $42 a tube for that. I don't know how much it would cost if you had somebody rebuild these. I would imagine it'd probably be about $100 to $125 a piece to recover those, of course, because I mean, all these things got to come out, and all of the cleaning and rebuilding it, and the materials, and not including the person's time, so I think it's a worthwhile repair.